Honourable question number 6, the Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Are the proceeds from selling power companies and other assets being used to pay down debt, to build schools and hospitals, to fund irrigation projects, to rebuild Christchurch, or to fund Auckland transport projects?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, the government has been clear that the proceeds of the share offer program will be used to buy a variety of new public assets and will help the government avoid having to borrow to procure those assets. The Future Investment Fund was outlined in Budget 2012 and further details were provided in Budget 2013. The purpose of that fund is to ensure complete transparency about the spending of the proceeds from asset sales. The budget confirmed another $1.5 billion of these proceeds will be invested in schools, Christchurch hospitals, Kiwi Rail and irrigation projects. However, the share offer proceeds are only a proportion of the government's overall new capital spending.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Does he agree with John Key that asset sales are necessary to, quote, avoid a credit downgrade? Or does he agree with Tony Ryle that asset sales are necessary to pay down debt? Or does he agree with another John Key that asset sales would be used to build new schools and hospitals? Or does he agree with Nathan Guy that money would be used to subsidise irrigation on multi-million-dollar farms? Or does he agree with Jerry Brownlee that asset sales money be used to rebuild Christchurch? Or does he agree with yet another John Key that asset sales will fund the Auckland rail link?
Honourable Bill English.
Yes.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
How much funding has already been allocated for spending from asset sales via the Future Investment Fund, and how much has actually been raised for the Future Investment Fund from asset sales to date?
Well,
Honourable Bill English.
The details of that are set out in the budget, but as the member will be aware, the government's program hopes to realise between $5 and $7 billion, which is actually quite a lot of money. And I'd have to say that that $5 to $7 billion is much more useful as cash than it is as 49% shares in electricity companies owned by the government.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Honourable David Parker.
I seek leave to table documents showing that $1.7 billion has so far been raised.
What's the source of the document?
There's a combination of documents, sir, the National Party manifesto and Treasury documents.
No, both are freely available to members if they so wanted. Has the member got a supplementary question?
Yes, sir. Supplementary to the Minister.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Why does he continue to claim asset sales will reduce debt when Treasury, his own department, states that from 2017, the Crown is worse off to the tune of $50 million a year, growing to $100 million a year worse off because of asset sales thereafter?
Honourable Bill English.
Speaker, we don't claim it'll reduce debt. What we've said it will mean that the Crown doesn't have to go and borrow the money from overseas bankers. And we've never understood why the Labor and the Greens would rather borrow money from offshore bankers than get the money from New Zealanders who want to invest in a large New Zealand company.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Has he been advised that in January 2011, John Key said the government needed to sell power companies and other state assets to avoid a credit downgrade? And if so, is he aware that 8 months later New Zealand was downgraded by both Standard & Poor's and Fitch?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, yes, I am aware of those things. And I'm also aware that the sale of the assets means that 49% of the ownership has gone largely to New Zealanders, but also to some offshore investors. In return for that, they have put cash in the government's bank account, and I know it's profoundly irritating to the Labor Party, but we are able to use that cash to buy new public assets. And the public are starting to understand that Labor's arguments against the asset sales were poorly conceived and wrong.
Question number 7, Ian McKelvey.
Tēnā koe, me te mangai.